Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
How are we doing?
We're doing good. Excited to be here in Palm Desert.
Palm Desert, and then not to perform, but to podcast.
Yes,
For the first time.
Normally, I'm just down here to perform, but I'm excited to be here. Excited to podcast. There's a lot of weed that I'm looking at, which I like.
Yeah, we have more behind me and more over there for you. So
Really?
Libra, these guys hooked you up.
Thank you, Libra.
Yeah.
Super excited. I love weed. Yeah.
What do you like about weed? Like, I mean, that's a very vague question, but like products wise, like with edibles, pre-rolls. The
Okay, like
jar
you gotta
full.
have flour, right? Like I love just plain straight up flour because that's like you know what you're getting. It's not a roll of the dice. Whereas like edibles, you never know how exactly they're gonna hit. But I do fucks with edibles, but only the ones that are like small milligrams.
Yeah, I find myself using sativas. Just because it's like I can function. Not that I can't function on an indica or whatever, but it's just something about it. I can just kind of like see clearer. I don't know. Maybe you're affected differently.
Yeah, no, I prefer sativa over indica.
Yeah.
Just because like I don't need to be lifeless. You know what I mean? Like I need energy. I can't just be like in the couch. So.
Have you used like what is this right here? What's that? Was that like honey something? Honey pot? What is
Honey
that?
pot. This looks like it
A
is
balm?
a balm. I've never used this before, but it looks great because there's 33 milligrams of CBD and 31 milligrams of THC, and normally when there's both of them, it's kind of more powerful.
So really, if there's THC and CBD, it adds to the
Effectiveness of it
effectiveness
overall.
of just like your pain, or like is it like psychoactive?
Both. Well,
Both?
I don't think it would be psychoactive.
Can you get
because
psychoactive by rubbing it on? Is that even a thing?
Yeah, you can get psychoactive from rubbing things on, but it's 31, 33, so it kind of like cancels each other out in a way, if that makes sense.
So it's just for the smell. Oh.
Yeah, but it's more effective in terms of like inflammation and stuff like that.
So you're pretty educated on cannabis and CBD,
I mean, yeah, for the most part, I'm a cannabis connoisseur.
When did you figure that out? When did you figure out that you love
pot?
marijuana and pot? Devil's lettuce.
When I was like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been smoking weed a long time. I don't really drink. I'm a lightweight when it comes to alcohol, and I always make really poor decisions, so I lean more towards cannabis.
Cannabis and Diet Coke.
Cannabis and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Those are my drugs of choice. I got my Diet Coke right here. Thank you very much.
For sure. Thank you to the vending machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
shout out to the vending machine.
So these are always kind of hard to read. I mean, I guess it does say what it is, like the amount, but even still, are you still kind of skeptical on how it's going to hit you? Or just like in general?
No, like a 10 milligram, I would take that if I didn't have like a comedy show.
Yeah.
But if I have a comedy show, I can't take that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Have you ever gone on stage baked?
Yes, I've gone on stage baked. I don't recommend it. It threw off my timing completely because the thing is, like, I am someone who smokes weed, but like it's not my personality, and I feel like I have to make that distinction because like a lot of people assume like if you smoke weed then all you do is just like smoke weed and chill, and that's not what I do. You know what I mean? So yeah.
You know when to use it and when not to use it. Right?
Yeah, I try to be conscious about my consumption. I mean, overall, like, I like to write high and then perform sober because I've had bad sets performing high before. I learned that lesson the hard way, so.
What do you think it is about comedians that have to get high on stage? Is it just like a crutch, or is it just they can break into their character, or do you think it varies from comedian to comedian?
I don't really know many comedians who perform better stoned, in my opinion.
Like traveling with musicians and going on tours, the pro guys that I've seen that are, night to night, city to city, they're not even drinking, they're not getting stoned sometimes stoned, but at least not during or before they get on stage. So
yeah,
a lot of these guys really stay clean, but they kind of have like that they party and they smoke or whatever, but they know when it's time to work, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it just makes your job harder if you go on stage high.
Do you remember? You have like a story about like one time you like did you freeze or like what's the problem?
No, I went on stage high. I didn't know that I was going to even be going on stage that night, and it was the day that I had gotten my weed card when you still needed a weed card in LA.
Like go down to Venice Boulevard and
yeah, like to a doctor in Venice. Yeah, that's where I got it. And then that same night, I went to the Comedy Store. I signed up for potluck. This was before I was in the development system, and I didn't know that I was going to be going up. And my friend gave me a spot, and I had eaten 2 like mini gummies earlier in the afternoon, and they were so small that like I didn't think that they were going to be that powerful. That's the thing about edibles. You have to read and know what you're consuming, because like there was like 20 milligrams in there, and that's a lot for someone who had never really taken edibles before. And then I get on stage, and it's like the original room, the OR, is like the hardest room in the country. So like already it's nerve-wracking as fuck performing in there when you're like sober and like prepared to go up. But then when like you're still trying to prove yourself, you're not like in the development system yet, and like you're high, it just was not a good situation. And I saw the light come on, and when the light came on, I literally didn't know how long I had been on stage. Like my perception of time was so completely warped that I was like, it could be anywhere from like 1 minute to like I've been running the light for 15 minutes. Like I have no idea. Like I just see that it's on, but I have no clue how long it's been on for. So I start talking super fast, and my voice starts like coming out for some reason in a Western accent, like someone who had like a stroke and like woke up like speaking another language. That's what it was like. Like it was the craziest shit ever.
You channeled some other
like some Dolly Parton personality. Yeah. And like it was crazy. I don't even know why it happened. It was so weird. And my friend was hosting and was like, I don't know why she just talked in a full Western accent. Anyways, and it was like made it even worse because it was like somebody identifying what I had feared, which was like I've lost all control.
Has that ever happened before where you broke out into random accents?
No.
It just the weed took over.
The weed took over.
Yeah. When you came off the stage, like, did you think anything of it? Like, I'm not going to do this again, or
when I can't stand up?
Yeah, I mean, when you went out on stage stoned and you were like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, I'm never doing this again. After I bombed, okay, first of all, I bombed, and then I got into, this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I got into a lift and went to a deli by myself. And that was my whole night. And then I ran into another comic, and she was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm so high, and I just bombed so badly that I just need to like reflect in silence by myself over a BLT.
Yeah, you have, I know your bit's pretty well, and you have one, not to give it away, but you have a bit talking about like cold cuts and ordering certain amounts of that. And is that where you got your jokes, or are you just really into like sandwiches and that kind of thing?
Most of my jokes are observational, so they're from like an experience that I've had or something that I've seen and been like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of it is observational or kind of almost one-liner-ish. You're doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of one-liners, and one-liners are tricky though because they take a long time to come up with, and you burn through them so fast. So it's like to keep generating one-liners is what I aspire to do, but it's sometimes just hard.
What inspired you to do the one-liners? Because it's like a Rodney Dangerfield. It's almost like an old school type of comedy. Like a lot of those guys do that, like one-liner stuff.
Yeah.
Like just bam, bam, bam.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like when I first started comedy, I was on Kill Tony, that podcast with Tony Hinchcliffe.
So you get just a minute.
So I just got a minute of stage time, and I'd have to write for a minute for like 2 years. So I really got to learn how to like get to the joke faster. Before I did Kill Tony, I didn't write as many one-liners. I was more like observational, and it would take longer to get to the punches. And I still mix in like some observational stuff with one-liners, but it's harder to just generate an endless amount of one-liners because you do burn through them so much faster. And sometimes like it's hard to know if it's a one-liner or if you can like flesh it out and make it into like a larger bit, and you don't know until you take it onto stage and try it out. So yeah,
because if you're headlining, you're doing what, 30, 45. So you really have to kind of time it out, and you can't just go bam, bam, bam. Again, I've had you out in the desert for the past year or two, I think.
Yeah.
Quite, at least almost every other month, and you'll return with some new stuff, and then some stuff that's just classic. Even going to the comedy store, I'll see you do some bits that you're working out of the hood, and it still kills, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
but,
thank you.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I love coming to the hood to work stuff out because it's like low pressure, and I can like try different things, and it's great. It's a fun show.
Do you feel like in LA you have to approach it differently?
It just depends on the room in LA. Like if I'm at the store in LA, I'm not gonna do like, if I have a development spot on the top of a show, like if I'm opening the main room and it's seating 400 people, I'm not gonna come out with like and try a new joke if I'm the first person that these people are seeing and I'm like cold opening before the show starts. Like I have to go out with my best stuff. But if it's like a development spot and it's in the belly room and I'm like the second person, that's like more of a safe space to like work stuff out. It's like less threatening. So it just really depends on where I am. Like if I'm at a shitty like show that's in a bar or like in the back of like an ice cream store or like some alt show in LA, the stakes aren't as high and I'll just do something way less stressful.
I had Malcolm Hatchett on the podcast.
I love Malcolm.
Yeah, same here. And a few months back, and he said that they even do stand-up comedy in like where they wash your clothes, like laundromat.
Oh, laundromat. Yeah, I mean,
like that really goes down. He's like, yeah. He said that's just how they work it out.
Yeah, there's all kinds of places you can do stand-up. Unfortunately.
No. Well, he even said he enjoyed it because it's like as long as he's making that one lady folding laundry laugh, then he knows that because she's not even there for that. Just the way that he explained it seems like they're hitting everything.
Yeah. I definitely think those shows are the important shows because those are where you can like take the risks, and you need that. Like you need like the low stakes shows where you can just take the risk. Like you need like a mic. You need that you have to be able to fail to like get better. And if you don't take the risk, there's nothing that feels worse than like doing an old joke and it working and you just feeling like, ew.
Yeah, it's like a cheap feeling.
Yeah, it's like a cheap feeling.
Yeah, like, we got through it, but I feel dirty.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, for sure. So you came from LA. Where are you from? Are you from Los Angeles? Or are you from somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm from LA originally. I'm from the Valley. I'm a Valley girl.
Okay. Have you seen that movie Valley Girls? Did you grow up to that movie with Nick Cage? I think he's in it.
Oh my God, I don't think I've seen that movie.
Valley Girl, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
but so many 80s
I grew up around that
movies.
area too, towards that area in LA, and I just remember, not from that movie, but just hearing about that movie and watching it because it was called Valley Girl, and it's based around the talk and the way those girls were at the mall and all that stuff.
I mean, that's what I used to do as a kid, go to the mall with my mom.
Yeah.
A lot. People used to hang out more in malls. That's not really like a thing as much anymore.
Yeah, they'd have like concerts and like Cyndi Lauper. And they have like
side ponytail.
Yeah, they have like those jumping machines now, or like little carts you can ride around.
Yeah.
So you're are you like in love with LA, or are you just there because that's where everything is, or you're just used to living there?
I'm an LA girl. I mean, like I love New York. The stand up in New York is great. It's easier to get stage time and a lot more stage time, but I'm like a pussy when it comes to weather.
Yep. Yeah.
And like the lifestyle is just harder. Like the subway, I like my car. I like to like when I leave the house, I don't want to be like immersed with everyone else.
Yeah, because there's like a few different points throughout the country where comedy's comedy's hot worldwide, but West Coast and then like Atlanta has some cool stuff, I guess. And then I'm probably very ignorant for even saying this, but from the comedians that I've known for the past couple of years, they kind of told me the hot spots. But New York, I guess there are some cool spots, but totally different. Just like with music, West Coast, East Coast, it's like, is it kind of that way with comedy? Like, can you look at a comic or hear them and say they're probably from the East or West, or does it vary?
I feel like a lot of the women comics that I've met from New York are like really good. And it's like, wow, you're really good. You know what I mean? Like they really stick out to me a lot. I think that like I can't tell, like, if there's a group full of people, I can't just automatically know if someone's from New York unless they have like an accent or whatever. But like, I do think that the New York comics grind super hard and that they like do multiple shows in a night. Like, some of them have like 4 or 5 up to like 7 shows a night. So like, you can't get 7 shows a night in LA. That's just not a feasible thing.
Yeah, because that's kind of what a lot of comedians do. And I know that I hung out with, not to be Mr. Name Drop, I keep saying names, but Dean Del Rey, really cool, like rock and roll dude.
Yeah,
Him and
I love Dean.
Hit it off really, really well. And we went out, I picked him up at his apartment in LA one day. And he's like, okay, we're going to go to the Comedy Store. So we went and did a set. And he's like, okay, we're going to go to the Malibu Laugh something or whatever, some comedy spot. Like really cool, random.
Like
have you heard of that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Malibu Playhouse.
It's kind of like a mini like little theater inside there.
That's cool.
And then we went back to the Comedy Store, but I guess my point is he worked 3 or 4 different sets. He worked every room in the Comedy Store that night, but we bounced around and he would talk about, he'd do the same bits, but then talk about, I'm going to adjust this, I'm going to go adjust that. It was really cool to see in real time because for the few years that I've been bringing comedians out, I've never got to see them do the same thing but tweak it and analyze it after show to show, because it was one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Yeah,
it was really cool to learn and see that.
Yeah, when you're doing it, you're like, wow. It is crazy how you tweak it from show to show. Like, I was just in Vegas and I was headlining in Vegas, and then I did like a 5-minute set in Vegas, like right after I headlined, and it was like, whoa, let's just like strip down the set to what really needs to be here and see like what works. And so it was so weird to have both those experiences like in the same night.
It's really cool. It seems like a cost-effective way to work out your material, and as opposed to like, well, I effed up this night, so now I'm gonna try again next week. But no, but you can actually try it 20 minutes later.
Well, like there also is this sick like adrenaline rush that you get from it. So it is like you're chasing like this like fucking high of if you don't do well or it doesn't go exactly how you want to, there is like a thrill of like looking to like the next one. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like comedy is for sure like an addiction in a lot of ways.
So like the minute you get on stage, is that where it kicks, or watching other people, or how does it? When do you like start to feel your like now I'm
from the moment
buzz.
Right before you go on stage until after you get off stage. But then after you get off stage is a good feeling if it goes well.
Yeah, and it usually does go well, right?
It normally goes well. Yeah.
There was one time, I'm sure you might remember or not, but you're performing in Palm Desert at the Hood, and there was one guy that was kind of like just mouthing off and saying some weird whatever. He was just being kind of a creep and rude, and we were trying to get him to be quiet, and then eventually he left. And then you were the headliner, and I'm doing the sound, like running the music and all that kind of stuff in the back. And something came over me to follow him out to the back, and I like told you, like, I'm sorry, I almost beat this guy up because he was doing whatever he was doing. Because I missed the whole, like, the host was like, Sarah, Sarah's whatever, blah, 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 but I was like nowhere to be found. So the music was kind of like just not where it should have been. And I wasn't even going to tell you about it, but you're like, oh, I just said, I'm sorry, I was going to beat this guy up because he was being very rude. He's like telling you like something about like get on the table or something, just being an asshole.
Oh.
It was like,
I don't even remember.
Yeah, he was saying like some stupid stuff. He was with the girls. I remember it because I hear every damn thing in there. Yeah. I'm the kind of the guy that if somebody starts speaking up, I have my light or I tell security to come and watch them or whatever. But he was just kind of like, we gave him like 2 different chances, which was one too many. And then, but I had to like check him or whatever. And I remember one of your friends was like, "Oh, no one's really ever done that for us." I'm sure someone has, but
yeah.
But people, they, you need to be like taken care of and take care of the comedians that come out here.
Thank you. Yeah. You guys always do, but like when you're doing a show that's in a bar, you kind of have to expect the like shit's gonna be what it is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like you come prepared with that. I mean, it's also a different experience performing for like drunk crowds versus high crowds. Like high crowds are great to perform for the most part, but like I just did this show recently and like someone was like on mushrooms in the audience sobbing.
Oh.
And I was like, I thought they were laughing, but they were just crying. And I was like, you're unwell. Sorry for pointing it out to everybody.
It was during your set?
It was during my set, yeah.
How did you notice? You just heard him crying?
Well, everyone was laughing, and then he was laughing, I thought, extra hard, but then I looked closer, and he had his face in his hands, and he was sobbing, and I was just like, I was like, are you okay, sir?
And he's like, I'm on mushrooms or what?
No, he like was like, I'm just emotional right now, and started sobbing, and then his friend was like, I'm gonna make sure he's okay, and they like got up and left, and it was like this whole fucking thing.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I guess with anywhere, you see quite a bit of people acting crazy. Even at the store, there was one time I was in, I think it was the OR, and some lady was just kind of like, you know, talking to the comedians, and then security ran up and I guess obviously talked to her, and then she started crying, and then the comedian's like, well, what's wrong? And she says, oh, they say I can't talk to you, like, and I was like, well, like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, there's
they really
all kinds of
a lot of people don't
stuff.
understand like the etiquette involved in
stand up.
Yeah, like just be quiet and engage when you're being engaged. And
yeah, I think people get excited and then they want to become like a part of it, which is always like fun, but it's always like a fine line, because it's like, no, this isn't about you, bitch.
Do you remember the guy that had all the cell phones?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had like 3 phones.
There's like this guy,
I was dying from
so
that.
weird. He had 3 cell phones sitting on his table at a bar show. Like, it was so shady. It was like 2 like old school, like one was a flip,
like a chocolate razor.
one was a flip, one was a BlackBerry, and one was like an iPhone. And I was like, what is this? Like, you have
stopped your whole set for it. Yeah,
so many phones out. This is the shadiest thing I've ever seen. He was like in a suit by himself at night at a bar. It was so weird.
No, I
burner
remember
phones.
I was dying in the back because you're like, you stopped everything. You like spent like at least 5 minutes on him and his cell phones, and he didn't have a good answer for it, but it looked nothing but sketchy.
It
like,
looks so sketchy. Like, no one
2
has
phones is already weirder than 3 phones.
Yeah.
And then a BlackBerry.
And it was just so shady. Yeah, that's what's fun about doing the shows out here, is that I have more time to like play in that way. Whereas like if I saw somebody with 3 phones out at the Comedy Store and I took the time to like address that, then like, where's my set? You know?
Yeah, you have the room to do it as you please, or pick the room around. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so we're drinking out of these Pauly Shore Libra cups. I'm gonna have you actually I have Pauly coming out. I booked him 2 nights this year, so I'm gonna have you like do some hosting or part of the show.
Okay, cool.
This is like just telling you on the spot. I was gonna tell you later, but I just was looking at it and I thought of that at the moment.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
I have him coming Friday and the Saturday.
Okay,
so back-to-back nights. Yeah, if you're available. But I know we talked about bringing you out here. Yeah. Do you have any stories about the Weasel and Pauly?
I mean,
besides the store?
No, not really.
You ever meet him?
Yeah, I've met him a few times. I don't really have any Pauly Shore stories. No, not
really?
many.
Yeah.
No.
My first inspiration for this whole comedy thing was going to the Comedy Store. So when I brought Pauly Shore to the hood, that was like, it kind of felt like I arrived as far as like, I got
That's
him,
cool.
and it's rad. Because I only go there. I don't go to the other spots. I like them. They're all cool. I just happen to go to the Comedy Store whenever I can.
The Comedy Store is the best club.
Yeah.
In the country.
And like all the door guys and Stephen Randolph and Chelsea and like all the people that pop through there, they're like, I stay in contact with them on the regular, and I know you're friends with them as well. Like very good close friends with Chelsea.
Chelsea Skidmore and Stephen Randolph. Yeah, I just did Stephen's podcast.
They're like a power couple. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun. But yeah, it's like a whole community. You know, you spend so much time there. I've been spending multiple days a week there for the last 10 years. So it's like becomes like part of your like weird extended family or something.
So was there ever a point where you got like passed to get on there? How does that work?
Well, so basically like there's a whole process. So right now I'm in the development system, so I get development spots. So I call in with my avails at the beginning of the week and then hope that I get a spot, and I normally get one every few weeks.
Yeah. And then you do Kill Tony often, right?
Well, I was on Kill Tony for 2 years as a regular, and I just went back as a judge like a couple months ago. But I'm not on the show regularly anymore. But I just had Tony on my podcast, Shank.
Yeah. Let's talk about your podcast.
So I have a podcast called Shank. It's a podcast where I sit down with comedians and I ask them a lot of times about their fashion phases, but the conversation is loose. It ranges from anything from like comedy to cannabis to that's it. Lifestyle. Yeah, I've had a lot of great episodes. I've had Tim Dillon, Mark Norman, Tony Hinchcliffe, Dean Del Rey, Jeff Garlin, and there's been like 85 of them, and they're all on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I'm a sound engineer in the very, very first comedy show that I was contracted to do the audio for was for Jeff Garlin in Palm Springs at the Ace Hotel.
That's awesome.
And then I didn't even know that he was going to be there, and I set up the mixing board, the microphones, and then some promoter was like, okay, he's coming in, and then I see him there, and what I always remember is he did not want to be there. He was like a packed house too, but he's like, I'm doing this for a favor for so-and-so, and maybe he was just, it was the holiday, who knows what, but he was really funny, but
he's really funny.
But he was just kind of like, you could tell he's like, he had like, not, I wouldn't say better things to do, but it was just one of those things where he was like, and maybe that's just his personality for the night, but it was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm here. It was, but he's hilarious. I love the Goldbergs, all the stuff that he does, but
yeah, he's
I just remember
talented.
that it just seemed like he wasn't too fond of the show.
Oh, really?
But he looked at me like, cause I'm sitting side stage, and he's like looked at me and gave this like big smile. So maybe he was just like messing around. But
he's so funny. He always jokes around. He's so fun to hang out with. I love him so much. Yeah, I open for him sometimes, and it's super fun.
Yeah, he seems like a big sweetheart. But when I saw him, I think maybe he was tired, or who knows what, or maybe that was just part of his bit. But again, that was a few years back, so that's before he was even hip to comedy. So for all I know, he was pulling a fast one and just being funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I remember that. I remember looking through just some of the people that you've interviewed, and he was one that I was like, oh, that dude, he was really cool. And then Sandro.
Oh yeah, Sandro.
He's on Sandro. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on your show as well.
Yes.
On the Comedy Central
Sandro's
thing.
on my Comedy Central series. I have a digital series on Comedy Central called Shanks for Smoking, which is a YouTube digital show where I get high with a different guest, and then I also have a merman on the show, and that's my friend Sandro, and he plays my merman Carl, so he's like my sidekick, and it's its own little whimsical world.
Yeah, him and I are like somehow kindred spirits. We're always talking, and we get along very well. I don't know what it is, but from the get go, I just told him, dude, I said, before I even knew where you sat in the status, whatever, the superficial land, you're a freaking star. Like, he's hilarious.
He's so talented.
He could be in any damn movie, like comedy, drama, whatever.
He can act.
He is phenomenal.
He's amazing on stage. He's a great actor. He's super talented. I think he's gonna be super famous.
I do as well, and I tell him that all the time. I'm like, dude, I said, you're like, you have the same like quality of that. Like, you can do something really awesome given the opportunity, and him as well. You know? So like, he's definitely like, he can do. I mean, his Little Italy series he did. Like,
I know.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
He's really a great actor, and he's like, and that's why I cast him in the as my merman, because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna be hosting a cannabis show, I'm gonna need someone who could like help me out,
like a comic relief.
Yeah, like just like a sidekick, because like if I get too stoned and I have nothing to say, like what do I do? So I wrote it in so that Sandro would like come out and like help me out if I need that to keep the show moving. And I was so nervous that he wasn't going to be able to do it, because he was also on hold for like a commercial, because he gets a lot of commercial work because he's such a fucking good actor. And I was like, oh my god, I hope he does not book this commercial. But I'm sure he was hoping he was going to book the commercial, because commercials pay great. But he didn't book the commercial, and so I got to have him as my merman, and I was so excited.
You call him Carl, right?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Just a fictitious name.
Gotcha. Yeah. But yeah, the merman thing, it's hilarious though. Is he always, I haven't seen all the episodes, but is he always a merman?
Yeah, he's always a merman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was your idea?
Yeah, that's my idea.
What made you think of that?
My imagination.
Yeah, it's a funny.
I have a very like wild imagination.
Yeah.
I like stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
That's cool. And then he's the kind of guy where I could imagine you say, put this on, do this, and he'll just go.
Oh yeah, I was like, okay, who's gonna for sure be down with this?
Him.
Sandro.
Yeah.
And literally, I was like, I remember I texted him. I was like, I need you to be a merman. Are you down? And he's like, yes. Right away, it was just like, yes.
Yeah.
So luckily, we got him.
Yeah, shout out to him. When did you meet him? Like, how'd that go down?
I met him when I started comedy. I also wrote a web series with Kimberly Congdon, who was the other regular in Kill Tony, and we cast him in that. And that's when we first found out that he was like an amazing actor. We wrote this thing called Half Full with Kim that's also on YouTube, where we play like sisters, half sisters. It was just a script we wrote, and we shot a little bit of the web series, and we cast Sandro as like someone that Kim hooks up with. And we realized he was like such a good actor then. And so then when I had this opportunity with Comedy Central, I was like, I definitely want to bring Sandro in.
So when did you start the Comedy Central deal? How did that start?
Comedy Central saw that I was making cannabis content, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, do you have any ideas for a cannabis driven show? And I was like, yeah. And then I pitched them Shanks for Smoking, and then we made it.
Nice. Do you think that, like, how do they find you? Is it like, do they see you or just have the reputation?
I had met with them
media?
a couple times, and then social media. Yeah, it's just like a lot of being in the same industry, a lot of nothing happening for a really long time.
But Comedy Central, that's like a really cool one to be part of. I mean, like there's so much good content on there.
I'm super grateful for the opportunity. Definitely. It's super exciting.
How do people find your podcast and then your Shanks for Smoking?
Okay, so Shanks for Smoking, Shanks, SHENKS for Smoking. That's on Comedy Central YouTube original. So you can go to their, you just type in Comedy Central YouTube original, Shanks for Smoking, and it'll pull up there. Also, all of the episodes are on Comedy Central IGTV now, so there's that. And then my podcast Shank is available on YouTube, underneath my YouTube channel, Sara Weinshenk. And then you can also find my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and yeah, that's it.
Nice. So what do you think? Like, what do you think weed's gonna do in the future? Like, is it just gonna continue to be taboo, or do you think it's gonna be just like Budweiser,
I feel like it's
or
so
what?
mainstream.
Because you're kind of on like the forefront of, you know.
Yeah, I feel like the future of cannabis is, I mean, we're just at the beginning, because ultimately I feel like most people will probably turn to cannabis, and there'll be less alcohol consumption. Already in the States where weed has become legal, the alcohol consumption is down so much. So I think that's definitely something that's going to happen. I'm hoping that we can get off opioids and onto cannabis instead. Yeah, I think that the future is definitely like plant medicine, and I hope that there's more female advocacy in the space.
So who else besides like you and Wolfie are like really pushing cannabis? Because I'm not too sure of like who else is really pushing it as hard as you guys. You guys seem like to be like the two that, at least that I know of, that are like really on the forefront.
Well, of course, Doug Benson.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah.
It's Doug, and then Jessime Peluso. She's into cannabis, and she's open about it. Josh Wolf is open about his cannabis consumption. He's super funny. Rogan, yeah, Joey. So yeah, I think that a lot of comedians are pretty open about their cannabis consumption, because it's like, I don't know, it's so mainstream in our culture.
Yeah. How was your you were on the Rogan Experience? How was that?
It was really fun. It was really cool. I went on with Tony Hinchcliffe and Kimberly Congdon, and it was right after I was probably like, I had become a regular on Kill Tony, maybe like 1 year under my belt, and then we did that. It was just such a cool experience. Yeah, of course.
So that was at his old studio?
Yes,
yeah.
His old studio.
Yeah. What was it like? Like, what were you thinking when you walked in there? Was it intimidating? Or
no, because like I didn't grow up listening. Like, I didn't listen to it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't listen to it. I don't listen to a lot of comedy stuff just because it's like not interesting to me, in a way. Yeah. So I didn't really have like a lot of fear attached to it, because it was kind of going in with like a naive like perspective.
Yeah, I like to do the same thing. I do just enough research, but not enough, because I don't want to try to fanboy. Even I've never been that style. I'm always surrounded by production and music and concerts and people to where like nothing really phases me. That's why I think I'm doing well with the comedy and the whole thing. Is just second nature. I'm just doing what I'm doing. But I know that I've had a few people on the podcast tell me, like, you know, that know Joe, or maybe Ian or somebody was saying, they'll see like somebody at the Comedy Store will see Joe Rogan like a fan and just kind of like gawk and just kind of like get awkward with him, and it's like he's just a dude and he's just a guy, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, at the Comedy Store especially, there's so many different, it can be overwhelming, like the amount of like people who listen to podcasts or feel like they know people because they are so used to listening to them on podcasts. So it is like, I'm sure, you know, anyone who's like has some type of following, it's like people just come up to you and approach you at the store.
Yeah, but this guy, he was saying he was just like staring at him, just like from a distance.
For sure,
kind of like just very strange.
Yeah,
he couldn't handle
like
it.
A little like team of security around him probably at all
yeah,
times.
I know he like hangs out in the kitchen, and then he'll hang out like there's like a back private bar. I'm sure, but for the most part, I heard he kind of. I hear from the door guys at the comedy store that he pays very well. He tips them out like $100, like no problem. He's been doing that for years. Just kind of like just being super cool, you know.
Yeah, he's super cool, and he like really looks out for the door staff for sure.
Yeah, he's like a big advocate of the store. Like he's constantly plugging it and loves it, and I'm sure that helps. I mean, the store is doing well all on its own, but Joe Rogan is such a big, you know, in the podcasting world, he's like number one. So he's getting a lot of people to recognize that spot.
Yeah, the store is one of the most magical places on the earth.
It really is. The only reason why I go to LA now is just to go there because I'm so busy out here. Whenever I do get a chance, I'm out there, you know, finding new people and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and that's where I think I found you, comedy store. Yeah,
comedy store.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, it's been at least 2 years, I think, that I've had you out.
Yeah.
And you usually just travel with Wolfie?
Yeah, I travel with Wolfie a lot. She opens for me. It's fun. But I have different. Depends on the.
You brought a couple. You brought other people sometimes, but mostly you and Wolfie.
Yeah, Wolfie is my girl. So, it's always easier when it's like a close friend because it's like. When you're on the road or like it's just like a lot. You know, you want to be with someone who you get along with.
Yeah, so. It's like a band. Like, you know, you don't want to be with some people you can't even carry a conversation with, or like they smell or
totally
something, or their music taste sucks.
Totally.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then the last time I had you guys out here, you guys were in Vegas. What were you guys doing?
We did the last time we did the Bud Tender Awards. She was presented Cypress Hill like an award at the Bud Tender Awards, and so we went to Vegas, and then we came out here and then went back, and then we were just in Vegas again for like more comedy shows. What's
the Vegas comedy show stuff like?
I just did Don't Tell comedy in Vegas, which is really fun. It's like a pop-up show, and every time it's at a different location. So this time it was at a dispensary, and it was great. It was so much fun. They like pack the room out, and it's like a pop-up comedy show, and they don't tell you the location till the day of. And it was really fun. It was like locals. It wasn't like tourists, because it's a totally different vibe when you're performing for tourists in Vegas versus like the locals.
Yeah, I think the locals appreciate it more. The tourists are there just to get drunk and be on the phone or who knows what.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, totally. Because even with the music scene, there's like my band, we played there. There's a few places out there, and there's like some really diehard people there that just live there. They're just kind of like, I mean, I wouldn't live in Vegas, but I know that it just seems like a spot where it's like a vacation city. But I guess Palm Springs is considered that, but that's like Palm Springs on steroids. You know, like we're very chill here, but you know, the population's growing in Vegas. But I didn't know much about comedy. I know they have like, you know, they have like their hotels and there's those big shows. What do you think about like those big shows? Because comedians I've talked to, they're like, casinos are cheesy, this and that's cheap. Like
it's just like a different feeling performing in a casino than it is at a theater.
Yeah. Have you done anything like that? Like a
casino?
Or like that style?
Yeah, I performed at Laugh Factory, and that's in the Tropicana. And I performed at the Laugh Factory in Reno, which is also in a casino. And it's just like a total different. It's like the vibe is completely different.
It's like it seems like a disattachment. Like, I mean, it's like there's like a barrier, at least with like I'll play concerts for, you know, a few hundred people, then like thousands of people. And when you have that barricade and the whole thing, it's kind of like, yeah, it's cool, we're on the stage, but it's almost cooler to be in a smaller club. And even Paulie told me the same thing. He's like, dude, what you're doing here at the Hood is cool. Keep doing this kind of room, sell out this size of room. This is cooler than any other bigger room.
Yeah.
And so I took that to heart, and I've kind of stopped looking for other venues. I'm just kind of stuck with the Hood. And there's a few other spots around town, but Paulie stuck with me. He's like, dude, just this room is rad.
Yeah, the Hood's so fun.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me there.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. And you're a big part of the show, and you're there again like every month for the most part.
Yeah, I love being there every month. It's so fun.
So I'm gonna book you again, obviously, but like, who do you think you're gonna bring? Are you gonna bring Wolfie, or are you gonna bring someone else? I'll
bring Wolfie probably if she's in town. She's been going on the road more. I don't know. You'll have to see.
All right. Yeah, surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a surprise.
All
I'll
right.
post about it.
Yeah. Well, is there any like closing thoughts you want to plug anything or tell anybody about besides? I mean, we talked about Shank. We talked about.
I mean, thank you, Libra.
Okay, thank Libra. Yeah.
Thank you, Libra. Also follow me at Princess Shank on Instagram. That's Princess like normal, and then another SHENK. Instagram and Twitter for show dates.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you,
so
Sarah.
much.
Right on.